Can housing ever be affordable, right? What is the definition of affordable anyways, right? And I think for me, the affordability really just depends on the person who you talk to. Is that person on a fixed government income? Or are they a first-time home buyer who can barely buy a condo? Or are we talking about someone who's like a young couple with a kid looking for a family-sized home? So really depending on who you're talking to and what their financials are, the term affordability has different things for different people. So I'm going to provide you my perspective of the current state of affairs in fall 2022 of what affordable is in the Greater Toronto area. And I'm also kind of give you my hot take on exactly when the GTA, so Greater Toronto, became unaffordable. So if you're looking for some help in the real estate market right now, whether it's buying, selling, or investing, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Simply click on the date and a time that works best for you. And then when you see the prompt, fill in your name, email, mobile phone number, and the question you have for me, and then we'll chat then. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Properties TV. My name is Zhen, and I run a RE/MAX brokerage in the Greater Toronto area, on top of sometimes, actually most of the time, dropping sick, awesome real estate educational content like this for you. So there's so much kind of talk about affordability these days, and affordability honestly, it's just all relative depending on where you are, right? So affordable for someone making less than $40,000 probably means a totally different housing type and solution than someone who's making $100,000. Both people may find a hard time for them to find a home, whether you are buying or selling, right? And I've previously kind of talked about affordability before, and honestly, it's not getting any better. It's probably just getting worse. But that doesn't mean that everyone is entitled to own a detached home in Toronto, because by no means is that average anymore, right? And I'm going to be showing you this chart over here that I've been using recently, and I've updated it with the current 2022 price numbers, just effective of fall 2022. And currently, the average home, so this is inclusive of condos and freeholds, is about 21 times your average income. So if you take a close look, which is the difference between the blue and the orange lines, right? The average price and average income, right? It's wild. So what's wrong here? The average price is obviously, as you can tell, increasing at a much faster rate than the average income, which leads us to the very, very talked about affordability crisis. And unfortunately, the average person can just no longer afford a home. That's kind of the unfortunate thing in a big market, right? So you can choose to blame whatever entity you want. There are tons of scapegoats for kind of housing affordability crisis, but at the end of the day, this is unfortunately the reality in GTA. And the thing is, like, some people are moving out, but unless you're kind of making above average income, or you come from money, or family has owned real estate for a while, it's very hard to afford real estate with an average income anymore. Now, with that said, let me tell you why I've been saying that the average price to the average income index everyone talks about has been fairly irrelevant for a very, 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 very long time, notably 2008. Now, if you take a look at the part I've highlighted over here in the graph, prior to the stress test in 2018, you could buy roughly 7 to 8 times your income with a conventional mortgage, which meant that in 2008, yes, you could buy with the average home with the average income, which is even actually wilder because the amortizations at that time was 40 years, which is actually even easier to buy. So it hasn't gotten any more affordable since then. For the record, the average home right now is probably a semi 3-bedroom, 1 or 2 washrooms on the main floor in Toronto. Now, for you to afford that, it's going to be 21 times the average income. Plus, with the stress test, you're probably going to be able to buy with a mortgage of roughly only 5 times your income. So therefore, unless you're using alternative lenders, you're going to need to make a lot of money, which is roughly $228,000 to qualify for your average income. Yeah, it is wild. Yeah. Now, this is where I keep coming back to the fact that what is affordable anyways? While the average person should be able to buy the average home, but it's just more difficult in the city because a lot more people are there. But this isn't a problem if you go elsewhere, like I was saying, right? So that's why a lot of people in Ontario during the pandemic moved out east into 2 years. But you have to be able to make the sacrifice for the family, and you have to be able to work remotely, right? So nobody starts off buying a 3-bedroom semi-detached in Toronto. That's just not realistic. Realistically, most people are buying these average homes are generally the people who are moving up on the property ladder. So maybe they're selling their condo, right? And instead of a single income and two incomes, they merge it together and they both sell their condos that they bought a few years ago for more space because, kids or something, right? So it's not really an appropriate measurement of affordability when those who are looking to own real estate isn't targeting the average home anymore. But it really should be average home is more of an average Toronto condo, or maybe specifically entry. And I'm going to get to that point a little bit afterwards. But if you found any of this kind of thought-provoking affordability things helpful, I'm sure someone else will, because it provides a bit more light on where we are in the market in terms of the housing cycle, right? So make sure you help us smash that like button and subscribe to the Prime Property channel. And while you're at it, if you're looking for some help to navigate this crazy market and kind of get an understanding of it, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. The average Toronto condo price right now for the entry-level stuff, call it a one-bedroom, right, in downtown is about $650,000. So obviously condos, depending on where you are, could be for less, right? So for reference, to get there, you need $130,000, give or take, to buy this entry-level condo to afford the conventional mortgage, which is feasible for someone who is a high-income earner making slightly above the average, right? Now, this isn't meant to say that condos by any means are, affordable, right? Because based on the whole everybody should be able to buy a home ideology, this is super far from actually being affordable. Now, this is exactly why I would say a lot of people say we have a massive housing affordability, right? There's such a big outcry for it. Do you remember that chart I showed you earlier where I talked about how the implementation of the stress tests in 2018 killed the average homeowner's dreams? Well, this right here is the same chart, right? But I just modified it so it represents the average condo price. It was a little bit too hard to skew it out to a 1 or 2 bedroom. So this includes 2 bedrooms. So it would skew the average condo size up, right? So a little bit more expensive. But in 2018, the average condo 1 bedroom was around 500 grand, give or take, depending on the area, right? So before the stress test, you would only need about 70,000 to buy the average condo, which was totally feasible for 2 people making minimum wage or a single person making above average wage, right? So the day after the stress test, the income requirements to jump into that market was now $100,000. And that's kind of when it all changed. That is when home ownership dreams went out the door, right? So the take-home message for you in this video is that the average home to average home index that everyone seems to harp about is fairly irrelevant for a very long time. And I've been saying that for a while, because if you logically think about it, property prices, the value of a home, is a function not of what the average price is, but it's a function of how much money you could ultimately borrow and the availability of credit. Because you can see with the stress test, overnight, a lot of people got nixed out of the market, right? So you have to understand, real estate is built on credit, mortgages, and the higher the income you have, the more credit the bank is willing to give you. That's why people and the banks love jobs, right? And that's kind of what ultimately drives prices up or down. As you can see in this market, when prices go up, when rates go up, prices come down. There's a contraction of credit. But when credit goes up, a lot of availability of mortgages, prices also go up. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if we see the amortization come back at 40 years, because that gives people more credit, right? Because they can service more debt. So when looking at, say, the fluctuation of prices, you have to look at the availability of credit. And like I was saying, rates up, prices down. Rates down, prices up. Very simple if you want to remember as a take-home message for this video. And if things become ultimately way too unaffordable, right, for the first-time home buyer, I would not be surprised if the government policies come in and change the availability of credit for those type of people. So maybe you're pandering to the millennials and they need to buy first home. Maybe everyone gets 40%, 40-year amortization, right? So again, it's the availability of credit what drives affordability, not the average income. And ultimately, who controls the availability of credit? You got it, ding, 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 ding. Governments and central banks. Yeah, but that's a loaded comment for a video for another day. So maybe next week or something. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what housing affordability and ultimately what it means for you and kind of what it actually is. And if you are looking for some help to navigate this real estate market, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, or honestly just looking to see what is even affordable for you given your circumstance, you can book a call with me using the link right here. It's www.chatwithzen.com. Until next time, your move, your future. See ya. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.